During our 18th anniversary dinner, my CFO slid his phone beneath the table and turned the screen toward me. Check the Meridian escrow account. Do not react. Find a reason to leave without Laura. I opened the banking app under the tablecloth. $680,000, the profit from the largest project of my career, was scheduled to leave at midnight. The authorization carried my digital signature. I had never signed it. Across from me, my wife lifted her champagne glass and smiled. To the next chapter, she said. I looked at the woman I had trusted for 18 years and realized she already knew exactly what that chapter would cost me. My name is Daniel Mercer. I was 45 that night and still believed I could repair almost anything with the right plans. For 21 years, I had built commercial properties across Northern Virginia. Mercer Construction began with 2 borrowed trucks, a rented office above a tire shop, and 3 employees who accepted late paychecks because they believed I would make things right. Laura was there before the first contract. She handled payroll when we could not afford an accountant and learned enough about subcontractor bids to catch errors before I did. After our daughter Emma was born, she stepped away from daily operations, but she never stopped calling the company ours. I never corrected her because it was true. That was why the dinner felt wrong even before Noah showed me the message. Laura had chosen Alder House, a polished restaurant inside a converted brick warehouse near the river. Rain traced silver lines down the tall windows. She wore the navy dress I had bought for her birthday, and for the first 20 minutes she almost seemed like the woman I had married. Almost. Her younger brother Evan sat beside her. Laura said he was joining us because he had good news about a consulting opportunity. Evan had spent most of his adult life chasing the next thing, property management, online retail restaurant partnerships. Always certain success was one introduction away. He was not lazy. He simply worked hardest when someone else's money was involved. Noah sat beside me. He had been my CFO for 9 years and my friend for nearly 15. He was not the kind of man who interrupted an anniversary dinner with office problems. When he pushed that phone toward me, his face stayed calm, but the hand around his water glass had gone white. I stared at the transfer details. Meridian escrow. Account outbound wire, $680,000. Recipient Harbor Ridge. Acquisitions. LLC release time. 12:01 a.m. Authorized by Daniel Mercer. The money came from our Willow Creek project, a medical complex that had taken 18 months. We had received the final payment 3 days earlier. It was supposed to cover taxes, employee bonuses, equipment replacement, and 6 months of payroll. Without it, Mercer Construction would be exposed. I lowered the phone. Laura was listening to Evan describe a boutique property company positioned for aggressive growth. His language sounded polished because none of it belonged to him. She nodded, then looked at me. You're quiet. Long week. It's always a long week. Her smile remained, but her eyes sharpened. That's part of what I wanted to discuss tonight. Laura rested her fingers over mine. Her hand was warm. Mine had gone cold. I think you need to step back, she said. Not forever, just for a while. From the company, from the pressure. You barely sleep. You're distracted. Emma notices. Using our daughter's name was deliberate. Laura knew where to press when she wanted me to stop resisting. What would stepping back look like? 6 months, maybe. Noah could handle operations. I could oversee the administrative side again. She glanced toward Evan. And Evan has acquisition experience. He could advise on expansion. There it was not the whole structure, but the first visible beam. Evan raised both palms. Only if you wanted me to. I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes. I almost laughed. He had borrowed $20,000 from us 2 years earlier and never mentioned repayment. Laura watched me carefully. She believed the transfer would happen before I understood enough to stop it. My phone vibrated. I called the bank. They will not discuss it without you. We need to leave now. I folded my napkin beside my plate. What is it? Laura asked. Noah stood. Emergency at the Fairfax site. A sprinkler line ruptured above the electrical room. Daniel needs to authorize the response. Evan frowned. At 9 o'clock. Water doesn't keep business hours, Noah said. Laura's expression changed. Barely. A slight stillness around her mouth. You promised to turn your phone off tonight. I did. I pushed back my chair. Noah didn't. She studied me for a second too long, then lifted her glass. Go, she said. Save another building. The words sounded affectionate. Her eyes did not. I kissed her cheek. Her perfume, jasmine and cedar, was painfully familiar. For 1 second, memory tried to defend her. Then I saw Evan's hand close around his phone beneath the table. He was already typing. Noah and I crossed the restaurant without hurrying. Outside, cold rain struck my face. The moment we reached his truck, Noah locked the doors. I found the transfer while reconciling the account, he said. Your credentials approved it at 4:18 this afternoon. I was at the Arlington site. I know. Can the bank stop it? They placed a temporary hold for fraud review. You have to appear in person tomorrow morning. He opened his laptop. But there's more. Harbor Ridge Acquisitions was registered 4 months ago. By whom? He turned the screen toward me. The state filing showed 2 names. Evan Cross, manager. Laura Mercer, majority member. Rain hammered the roof while I read my wife's name again. This was not one reckless decision. She had built something behind my back piece by piece, then asked me to step away just before she took the first payment. I closed the laptop. Drive to the office. You're not going home. Not yet. For 18 years, Laura had known every version of me except the one she created that night, the husband who finally understood that his marriage and his company had become part of the same investigation. Noah drove through the rain with both hands fixed at 10 and 2 the way he did when he was angry enough to become careful. The office sat 12 minutes from the restaurant in a low glass building beside the interstate. The parking lot was empty except for security lights and the red glow of the company sign. Mercer Construction, my name, across 40 feet of brick. Inside the lobby smelled faintly of drywall dust and lemon cleaner. Noah switched on the lights above the conference table. I removed my jacket, rolled up my sleeves, and asked him to show me everything. He opened the bank records first. The transfer had been initiated from an administrative account assigned to Laura years earlier when she still helped with payroll. Her access should have been limited to viewing statements and approving vendor payments under $25,000. Someone had changed those permissions 6 weeks ago. Who approved the change, I asked. Noah turned the screen. My name appeared at the bottom of the authorization form. The signature was digital, created through a secure link sent to my company email. The system showed that the link had been opened from my home network at 11:42 on a Tuesday night. I remembered that night. I had returned from Richmond after midnight. Laura had been awake in bed with her laptop saying she was ordering invitations for Emma's school fundraiser. She had access to your phone, Noah asked. She knows the passcode. He did not say what we were both thinking. Trust had been the security flaw. Noah pulled up the activity log. My email account had been accessed from Laura's laptop on 4 evenings. There were downloaded contracts, bank statements, payroll forecasts, and a list of our top 20 clients. Stealing money was one kind of betrayal. Copying the company's clients meant she was preparing to replace me. I walked to the window. Rainwater bent the highway lights into blurred streaks. My reflection looked older than it had at dinner. Laura had always believed the company undervalued her. In the early years, that was partly true. She handled invoices at our kitchen table while nursing Emma chased late payments and once drove 2 hours through snow to deliver revised plans before a bid deadline. When the company stabilized, I offered her an executive position. She declined. She said she wanted time with Emma and did not want our marriage to become another department meeting. Over the years, that choice hardened into resentment. During arguments, she sometimes reminded me that the company would not exist without her. I always agreed, but perhaps agreement was not the same as making her feel seen. It did not excuse her. It only explained how she might have justified it. Noah opened a folder from the shared server. 3 weeks ago, Laura asked me for the Willow Creek completion documents, he said. She said you needed them for an insurance review. I never asked for them. The folder included our client list and margin reports. A copy had been exported to a personal cloud account registered under Harbour Ridge Acquisitions. That was the first clean evidence connecting the new company to ours. Do not lock her out yet, I said. Noah stared at me. Daniel, if we cut access tonight, she will know we found it. She will start deleting things. I called Priya Anand, our corporate attorney. She answered on the 4th ring, sounding half asleep until I said the amount. Minutes later, she was on speakerphone asking precise questions. Had the wire cleared? No. Did Laura have an official role? She remained a minority shareholder and unpaid strategic advisor, though she had not attended a formal meeting in years. Did Evan have access to company systems? Not legally. Priya instructed Noah to preserve every login record, email file transfer, and security camera recording. She warned us not to open Laura's private accounts or search her personal devices without authorization. Tomorrow morning, she said Daniel signs the fraud affidavit at the bank. Then we seek an emergency injunction against the transfer and any use of Mercer Construction's confidential data. What about Harbour Ridge? I'll pull the formation documents and financing records, but do not contact Laura or Evan, and do not play detective. After the call, Noah created a secure archive. Files populated one by one, permission changes, exports, login histories, banking approvals. At 10:37, my phone lit up. Is everything okay at the site? I typed, still assessing the damage. She responded with a heart. Come home when you can. Emma has an early class and I don't want her waking up worried. Emma was 16, observant, and old enough to know when adults were lying. She had been quieter around me lately. I had blamed school and the normal distance of adolescence. What if Laura has already told her something, I asked. Noah leaned back. Like what? That I am unstable, that I am losing control of the company. The dinner conversation returned. You barely sleep, you're distracted. Emma notices. Those remarks sounded rehearsed because they had probably been repeated before. At 11:08, the system flagged another remote login from Laura's laptop. We opened the live activity monitor. She went first to the Meridian account, then to the Willow Creek folder, then to the employee directory. A file disappeared. Noah restored it from backup. Another disappeared. She knows something went wrong, he said. No, she knows the money has not moved. The cursor paused over a folder labeled Executive Agreements. Then Laura downloaded the employment contracts for our 3 senior project managers. That was when the shape of her plan became clear. She was not preparing to take one payment and leave. She was preparing to take the people who could keep the company alive after I was gone. I looked at the clock. Midnight was less than an hour away. Archive everything I said. At 8 tomorrow morning, we go to the bank. And tonight, I picked up my jacket. Tonight, I go home and sleep beside my wife without letting her know I have seen the blueprints. I reached home at 12:18 a.m. The rain had softened to a mist, leaving the driveway glossy beneath the porch light. Through the front window, I could see Laura's shadow moving through the kitchen. For a moment, I stayed behind the wheel. I had entered storm-damaged buildings knowing one careless step could bring a ceiling down. Walking into my own house felt no different. Laura opened the door before I reached it. You look exhausted, she said. So do you. She searched my face. Did they stop the water? For now. The lie came easily. That frightened me. Upstairs, Emma's bedroom door was closed, a thin strip of light beneath it. I wanted to knock, but I did not know what Laura had told her. Instead, I listened to the soft music behind the door. Laura changed in the bathroom while I sat on the bed. Her phone rested screen down on the nightstand. 6 months earlier, I would have picked it up to charge it. That night, I did not touch it. She came out wearing a grey t-shirt and tied her hair back. Are you angry about dinner? Number. You left in the middle of our anniversary. There was an emergency. There is always an emergency with you. Her voice was quiet, almost reasonable. You said I should step away from the company.
I said you should breathe. She folded her arms. You act like those are the same thing. And Evan, he has contacts, he understands acquisitions.
He understands how to spend money. Her jaw tightened. That is why I do not talk to you about him. You decided years ago that he was a failure. She was not entirely wrong. Evan had made bad decisions, but I had stopped separating the decisions from the man.
I am tired, I said.
So am I. We slept with 12 inches of mattress between us. Around 2, her breathing changed and I knew she was awake. Neither of us moved.
At 6:40, I found Emma in the kitchen making coffee. She pretended I did not know she drank. Mom said you had a problem at work, she said. We handled it.
She also said you might take some time off. Would that bother you? Emma shrugged. I think you should do whatever makes you less stressed. The word sounded practiced. Do I seem stressed? Sometimes. She looked into the mug. Mom says you do not listen when people are worried about you.
There it was. Not an accusation, a foundation being poured.
Before I could answer, Laura entered. She kissed Emma's head and gave me a look warm enough to perform normalcy. Your father and I were talking about making some changes, she told her. Nothing bad. Emma nodded, but her eyes moved between us. I kissed her forehead before she left. She held on half a second longer than usual. At 8, Noah and I met Priya at the bank. The branch manager led us into a windowless conference room and offered coffee none of us touched. I signed a fraud affidavit stating that I had not authorized the transfer or the changes to my account permissions. The bank's legal department extended the hold for 72 hours while Priya prepared the injunction. Then the manager placed a printed approval record before us. The transfer request included a board resolution naming Laura Interim Chief Operating Officer and giving her authority to move funds during my temporary medical leave. My signature appeared beneath it. So did Noah's. He leaned forward. That is not mine. The manager shifted in his chair. Both signatures passed digital verification. Priya requested the Access Records device information and verification history. She simply named the documents the bank would preserve and the regulators who would receive copies if anything vanished. By 10:15, we were back at her office. Priya had pulled Harbour Ridge's public filings. Laura held 60%. Evan held 40%. The company had been created 4 months earlier using a private mailbox near Tyson's Corner. There was also a financing statement from a regional lender. Harbour Ridge was buying Bellwether Facilities Group, one of our smaller competitors. The purchase price was $3.4 million. The required equity contribution was exactly $680,000. My wife had not chosen the number at random. Noah found the next piece in our archived server logs. Laura had exported client records tied to commercial maintenance contracts Bellwether could service immediately after acquisition. She is buying the company with our money, Noah said, then feeding it our clients. Priya remained controlled. That creates potential claims for fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and theft of trade secrets, but we still need evidence she intended to use the data. An email arrived from Melissa Grant, one of our senior project managers. Daniel, I need to speak with you privately. Laura offered me a position at Harbour Ridge last week. She said you would be stepping down for health reasons and Mercer might not survive without new leadership. I did not accept, but 2 others may have.
Laura had not only planned my absence, she had begun announcing it.
Then my phone rang. It was Emma's school counselor. Emma had come to her office crying after first period. She was afraid her parents were divorcing and she believed I might lose the company because I was not well enough to run it.
Money could be recovered. Contracts could be defended. But Laura had placed our daughter inside the lie and let her carry the fear. I need to get Emma, I said.
Priya nodded. Go, we will handle the filing. As I stood, Noah asked what I would tell her. I looked at the forged resolution, the acquisition documents, and Melissa's emails spread across the table. The truth, I said, but only the part a 16-year-old should have to carry. By noon, I understood the full scale of Laura's plan. She was not leaving a marriage that had failed. She was constructing a version of events in which I failed first. The school counselor met me outside her office with one hand resting lightly on Emma's shoulder. My daughter's eyes were swollen, but she had already wiped away the tears.
I can take her home, I said.
Emma looked at me. Which home? The question landed harder than anything I had seen at the bank. We walked to my truck in silence. The wet pavement shone beneath a cold white sun. Laura had called 3 times. Emma waited until we were 2 blocks from school.
Are you sick? Number. Mom said you might need treatment. I work too much, but I am not sick. No doctor has told me I cannot run the company.
She stared through the windshield. Then why would she say that? Emma did not need to become a witness in her parents' war. Your mother and I are having a serious disagreement about the company and our marriage, I said. Some things were done without my permission. Lawyers are helping us sort them out. Did she steal from you? The word was too accurate to have come from nowhere.
Who used that word? Uncle Evan. He was at the house Saturday. They thought I was upstairs. He said once the money moved, you would claim they stole it because you always needed to control everything.
I pulled into an empty church parking lot and turned off the engine.
What else did you hear?
Mum told him to stop talking so loudly. Emma swallowed. Then she said you would be out of the company before the divorce papers were filed. For several seconds, the only sound was the ticking engine. Is she divorcing you? Emma asked.
I do not know what she will do, but this is not your fault, and you will not be asked to choose sides.
What if she already chose for me? I reached across the console and took her hand. Then she was wrong. I drove her to my sister Claire's house. Claire did not demand details. She brought Emma inside, then handed me a key to her guest room. You do not have to go back there tonight, she said.
I am not running from my own house.
Going back is not always the same as standing your ground. At 2:30, Priya called. A judge had granted a temporary restraining order freezing the transfer and prohibiting Harbour Ridge from using Mercer Construction's confidential information. The order also required Laura and Evan to preserve relevant emails, devices, and documents. The bank confirmed receipt, Priya said. The money will not move.
Payroll was protected. The company could breathe. My marriage could not.
Noah spent the afternoon resetting executive credentials and requiring 2 approvals for any transfer above $25,000. Laura's access was suspended with a legal notice preserving every attempt she made afterward. At 3:07, she tried the bank portal. At 3:11, she tried the company server. At 3:19, Evan called Noah and demanded to know why routine acquisition work had been interrupted. Noah saved the voicemail for Priya. By 4, Laura had stopped calling and started sending messages. Where is Emma? What have you told her?
Daniel, you are making this worse.
Then come home alone. We can still fix this before lawyers destroy everything. She still believed the lawyers were the danger. Before leaving, I gathered the documents Priya said I could show her: the frozen transfer, the false board resolution, the Harbour Ridge filing, and Melissa's email. I placed them in a blue folder. Laura sat at the dining table when I arrived. 2 cups of coffee had gone cold between us. Without makeup, she looked tired and familiar. Where is Emma? She asked. With Claire. The school called because she was crying. She thought I was sick and that we were divorcing. I never told her that. She heard you and Evan. Laura looked away. I set the folder on the table.
Tell me what Harbour Ridge is.
Her eyes returned to mine. A backup plan. Funded with $680,000 from my company.
Our company.
You forged my authorization. I used access you gave me. That is not authorization. She stood and moved toward the window. I helped build Mercer Daniel. Then you turned me into the wife who hosted dinners while everyone called you the founder. I offered you an executive role after every important decision had already become yours. Her voice stayed level. There was truth inside her anger, but truth did not clean the fingerprints off a forged document. You could have demanded a valuation or a buyout, I said. You could have filed for divorce. Instead, you moved money in secret and told our employees I was mentally unfit. I was protecting myself. You were creating the crisis you planned to use as evidence. Laura pressed her lips together. Evan said bellwether had to happen now. The acquisition would have given me something of my own, at the cost of leaving Mercer without payroll. You always find the ugliest way to describe what I do. No, tonight I am describing it accurately. I slid the restraining order toward her. Her face lost color when she saw the judge's signature. The transfer is frozen, I said. Harbour Ridge cannot contact our clients, use our records, or delete anything tied to this transaction. You went to court against your own wife. I went to court against forged signatures. Then she reached for her phone. Do not call Evan. He has already been served. Her hand stopped. What happens now? It was the first honest question she had asked me in days. Now we stop pretending this is a disagreement we can hide. I left the folder on the table and went upstairs to pack a bag. Behind me, Laura remained beneath the chandelier we had chosen together, reading the first page of the life she had forced us both to enter. The temporary order gave us 72 hours to stabilize the company before the first formal hearing. By Wednesday morning, rumors had reached the office. 2 project managers had received offers from Harbour Ridge. A client had been told I was taking an indefinite medical leave. Someone had called our bonding company to ask whether Mercer Construction still had active leadership. I gathered the senior staff in the conference room at 9. 12 people sat around the table, some avoiding my eyes, others watching too closely. Noah stood beside the screen. Priya waited at the far end with her legal pad closed. I am not ill, I said. I am not stepping down, and Mercer Construction is not being sold. A transfer was initiated without proper authorization, and confidential information was removed. The funds are secure while the court reviews the matter. Melissa nodded. 2 seats away, our operations director Graham stared at his hands. Afterward, he asked to speak privately.
Laura offered me a role at Harbour Ridge, he said. More money, equity. When? 2 weeks ago. And what did you say?
That I needed time. He rubbed his wedding ring. My youngest starts college next year. I was not trying to betray you.
I did not ask what you were trying to do.
He flinched. I never gave her documents, he said. But I listened. That was wrong. Firing him would have been easy. So would pretending I did not understand the fear behind his hesitation. At 48, with children and a mortgage, loyalty could sound different when someone placed equity on the table. You disclose every conversation and turn over every message, I said. Then the board decides whether trust can be rebuilt. By noon, Priya had arranged an emergency board meeting. Laura still owned 20% of Mercer Construction through years of stock transfers and profit sharing. That gave her rights, but not the authority she had claimed. She arrived with her attorney. Evan came too, though Priya stopped him at the door because he was neither an officer nor a shareholder. He argued loudly enough for everyone in reception to hear. Laura did not look back at him. She took the seat across from me. Her attorney said Laura denied forging anything. She believed she had broad authority through her ownership interest and years of informal involvement. Priya slid the false board resolution across the table. Ownership does not create a second board, she said. Laura's attorney read it. My client did not prepare this document. Then someone prepared it for her benefit, Priya replied, and she used it. Laura looked at me.
I was told it was a temporary operating resolution, she said.
By Evan. Her attorney touched her wrist, but she answered, yes.
It was the first crack between them.
Priya displayed the transfer log, exported client data, and offers made to our employees. Laura admitted speaking to staff, but said Mercer had become too dependent on me and needed another path. You mean another company, I said.
I mean a company where I was not treated like a footnote.
The board members shifted. Her anger had lost its polish.
I gave up my career for this business, she said. I worked without salary. I covered for you when Emma was sick, when your father died, when you spent nights at job sites. Everyone saw your sacrifice. Mine disappeared into the walls. I could have denied it.
That part is true, I said. Laura's face changed. But being unseen did not give you the right to forge my name, empty the operating account, or tell our daughter I was losing my mind. Her eyes dropped. The board voted to remove her as an advisor, suspend her access permanently, and authorize civil claims against Harbour Ridge. Her ownership interest remained intact, pending valuation and divorce proceedings. It was not dramatic destruction. It was slower and more exacting audits, disclosures, and consequences attached to each decision. Outside, Evan waited beside Laura's car. She stopped several feet from him. "You said Daniel would never notice until after closing." Evan glanced toward me. "Do not do this here. You said the resolution was legal." "It would have been if he had not panicked." "No," Laura said. "It would have been fraud whether he noticed or not." Evan reached for her arm. She pulled away. For the first time, I saw the distance between Laura's resentment and Evan's appetite. She had wanted recognition, independence, and leverage. He wanted a funded acquisition and believed her marriage was simply a door he could use. That distinction did not absolve her, but it mattered. She turned to me. "I want to speak to Emma."
Not until the counselor says she is ready. I am her mother, and she is not evidence for either of us.
Laura closed her eyes. Her attorney guided her toward the car. Evan remained behind, watching as if everyone else had violated an agreement he alone understood. Priya stepped beside me. "The lender suspended Harbour Ridge's financing," she said. "Without clean proof of the equity contribution, the acquisition will not close." What happens to Evan? That depends on the forensic review. If he created the false resolution or accessed your systems, this becomes more than a civil case. I watched Laura's car leave without him. By Friday, the $680,000 was restored to the operating account. Employee bonuses went out on time. No client cancelled. From the outside, the company looked stable again. But stability was not restoration. That evening, I returned to Claire's guest room and found Emma sitting beside my unopened suitcase. She held the anniversary card Laura had given me before dinner. "Did Mom ever love you?" she asked.
I sat beside her. "Yes," I said. "I believe she did."
"Then how could she do this?" I looked at Laura's familiar handwriting, promising another 18 years. "People can love you and still make choices that hurt you," I said. "Love explains history. It does not erase responsibility."
Emma leaned against my shoulder.
For the first time all week, I stopped trying to save the company, defend the facts, or predict the next legal move. I simply sat with my daughter while the life we knew settled around us in quieter pieces. The divorce took 11 months. Nothing about it moved with the speed of the restraining order. There were financial disclosures, interviews, forensic reports, settlement conferences, and weeks when no one called because attorneys were waiting for someone else to answer a question. Evan's part became clearer first. The forensic review showed that he had created the false board resolution using a template from another company. He had also accessed Mercer Construction's server twice from Laura's home office and sent confidential client records to Harbour Ridge's lender. Laura had known about the transfer and the employee offers. She had not known Evan forged Noah's signature, though she admitted she never asked enough questions because the answers might have stopped the acquisition. That distinction mattered legally.
It did not matter much to me.
Evan was charged with identity fraud and unlawful computer access. He eventually accepted a plea agreement that included probation restitution for our legal and forensic costs and a prohibition against serving as an officer of any company handling client funds during the probation period. Harbour Ridge dissolved without purchasing Bellwether. Its lender withdrew. The seller kept part of the deposit Evan had paid from his own investors' money. Laura was not criminally charged. The prosecutor said her conduct was reckless and dishonest, but the available evidence did not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she had created the forged documents. She still faced the consequences of what she admitted. As part of our settlement, Laura surrendered her voting rights in Mercer Construction and agreed to sell her shares back to the company at a value determined by an independent appraiser. She received her lawful portion of the marital assets. She did not receive the company our client list or the version of history she had tried to manufacture.
We sold the house.
At first, I resisted. I had chosen the lot, approved every renovation, and built the shelves in Emma's room with my own hands. Selling felt like allowing Laura's choices to take one more thing from me. Then Emma said, I don't think either of you will ever breathe normally in that house again. She was right. Laura moved into a townhouse 15 minutes from Emma's school. I rented an apartment near the office for 6 months, then bought a smaller house with a wide front porch and a kitchen that did not carry the memory of anyone whispering about stolen money. We shared custody. That surprised some people. They expected me to use the investigation to punish Laura as a mother. But she had not neglected Emma. She had frightened her, involved her in adult lies, and damaged her trust. Those were serious failures. They did not erase every bedtime school project fever or ordinary act of care from the previous 16 years. The court required co-parenting counselling. Emma also continued meeting with her own counsellor when neither parent was allowed to control the conversation. The first few months were difficult. Emma answered Laura's calls with one-word replies. She refused to stay at the townhouse overnight. Laura, who had once tried to manage every outcome, had to learn that apologies did not create deadlines for forgiveness. One Sunday, Emma asked me whether she should give her mother another chance.
That is not a decision I can make for you, I said.
What would you do? I would watch what she does when there is nothing left for her to gain. Laura began showing up differently. She stopped defending the acquisition. She stopped blaming Evan me or the years she felt invisible. She attended counselling even when Emma refused to speak. She returned documents she had kept. She gave Priya access to an old email account without being ordered to.
None of it restored our marriage.
But slowly it helped restore her relationship with our daughter. Mercer Construction changed too. I created clearer roles, stronger financial controls, and a formal review process that required 2 executives for large transfers. More importantly, I changed the way we recognized work that happened outside the spotlight. Graham kept his job after disclosing every message from Laura and accepting a year without management eligibility. Melissa became Director of Operations. Noah received an equity stake he had earned long before I considered offering it. At the annual company dinner, I did not give a speech about betrayal. I thanked the people who had protected the company when it would have been easier to protect themselves. 2 years after the anniversary dinner, I saw Laura at Emma's high school graduation. We stood on opposite sides of the auditorium until Emma waved both of us toward the same photograph. Laura looked older, so did I.
After the picture, she touched my sleeve. I am sorry, she said.
She had apologized before, but those apologies had always carried explanations behind them.
This one did not. I know, I said. Do you forgive me?
I looked across the lobby at Emma, laughing with her friends.
I no longer need to be angry every day, I said. That is what I can give you.
Laura nodded. She understood that peace and reconciliation were not the same thing. That evening, Emma came to my new house for dinner. Noah and Melissa joined us. We ate on the porch while summer rain moved across the street in soft grey sheets. At one point, Emma lifted her glass. To the next chapter.
Everyone laughed except me.
She noticed my expression. Too soon. No, I said, raising my glass. This time I know what it means. At 47, I understood something I had missed at 45. Starting over does not mean the years before it were wasted. It means you stop allowing one person's betrayal to become the final definition of your life.
I lost a marriage. I nearly lost a company. For a while I believed I had lost my judgment too.
What remained was not the life I had planned. It was a life built on facts, boundaries, and people who stayed when staying required courage. I would genuinely like to know what you think. Could you forgive someone who tried to take the future you built together? Or would some betrayals permanently change the relationship? Leave a comment and tell me where you are watching from. Share this story with someone who may need the reminder that protecting yourself is not the same as seeking revenge. And subscribe if you would like to hear more stories about people who found the strength to rebuild when trust collapsed.